Kayla. I didn't intend to just show you like that. I'm sorry, sweetie. You have to forgive me.
Oh, no problem.
Well, thank you. Listen, I have two beautiful guests here, but first I want to introduce everybody to the show and just say, um, today we're at the Coach Love Show, and you know what we do on Sunday nights? We talk about God. We look for the God in our journey. So to get us started off, we're simply going to ask Kayla, what is? Oh, I should introduce you. This is Kayla Shipman. This is Kayla Shipman. She is a high school student, actually. She is a beautiful and brilliant young person that she never stops amazing me. So I'm pleased to have you here. Welcome, Kayla.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And I also have with me the wonderful Miss Sherman Smith.
Thank you. How are you?
I am doing wonderful this evening. And, Sherman, you have wait a minute. You had a presidential candidacy,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to ask you to announce your next big thing, but I do believe that you have some big things coming up, correct?
I do. I'm working on a couple of different books. I'm always looking at another political run. There's an office calling my name at the moment. We'll see. There's always something in the works.
That's right. And then what was the name of your latest book?
The latest book that I'm working on hasn't officially been titled, but it is a horror story about my time in the Devil's Den.
Ah, I got
I
it. I
just
got
moved
it.
out of hell.
I got it. Okay, excellent. Excellent. And then, as I understand it, you're doing quite a bit of ghostwriting as well.
I have been given some offers to it wouldn't be as a ghostwriter situation. I have been given some offers to write autobiographies. A couple of people have actually come to me and asked me for help in telling their stories. Uh, some of those stories have been a little too scary for me to want to tell. It's
Okay. Listen, I can understand that. You know what? Real life is pretty doggone scary.
Mm.
Um, let's just lift the family members of those who um, got hit by the bomb, the American soldiers, but their family members because they are heartbroken, right? I want to lift those guys up. And then we have a hurricane going on. Um, and I think it's hitting Louisiana. So that is tragic. And then, of course, COVID is still going on. So it's just a lot. Life is scary.
Mhm. It really is.
It really is. And then, let alone if you are sick, if you have a personal ailment, you know what? Just know that we are lifting you up in our prayers. And this is one of the reasons why we do this show, Finding the God in Your Journey, because God is still there.
Mhm.
It really is. So,
Yeah.
my very first question to you girls is, what's your favorite Bible verse? Kayla, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, so for this season, I have really been reading into specifically Isaiah 61, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
What I have been reading lately.
Uh-huh. And what does it say?
Oh, um, instead of your shame, you shall have double honor, and instead of confusion, they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore, in their
Mm,
land they shall possess double. Everlasting joy shall be theirs.
nice, nice. You know what? That goes right into our topic for today. So we'll come back to that. Sharman, what's your favorite Bible
Uh,
verse?
Mine is John 13:34. A,
Okay.
a new command I give you: love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another.
You know what, Sherman? I can say for sure that is your
Mhm.
favorite verse all the time.
All the
All
time.
the time. That
All
is
the
your
time. That is it right there. If we can just find a way to love each other a little bit more, I really feel like there's nothing we can't overcome.
okay. So in loving one another, how do you love someone who is um controlling?
That's an
How do you
excellent
do that?
question. How do you do it? How do you ever love them enough to feel loved? Not where you think you have loved them enough, where they feel loved. Because they're ultimately trying to control you because they're trying to guarantee how much love they get back, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you meet their need? Or for your own protection, do you leave and love yourself the most? It's like a never ending battle.
It's definitely like a catch 20 two. Now, Kayla, I know you're young, but you have a lot of wisdom. She's she's very empathic. I'm telling that
Mm,
to the audience, but as
good.
well as Sherman because she loves that empathic girl.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're able to pick up on a lot of things, Kayla. What's your best advice when it comes to navigating a relationship when someone's really controlling?
Well, especially when they're seeking your love and your approval, I think there's a certain point where you have to step back and realize that you aren't God, and you
Mm-hmm.
can never love them the way that God can, and that you cannot lose a piece of yourself to feel a broken person is really what I think of in that
Mm-hmm.
moment.
You said a
Mm.
whole mouthful there.
Mhm.
First of all, you said and you acknowledged that even a person who is controlling may be seeking your love.
Mhm.
Yes. Um, you know, it all goes, a lot of controlling people, it goes back to childhood trauma, different
Okay.
difficulties that they've had in their own lives. And
Okay.
what we have to acknowledge is that person who's controlling something also doesn't want something to be seen, but needs to receive something. Um,
Mm.
so, in that, we will never be able to navigate or deeply analyze, fix something so broken within that person. So, you have to leave space for God in all relationships and within yourself.
So, I'm going to ask this question of both of you. Do you think it's worth figuring out what it is that that person doesn't want to be seen?
You have to, don't you? Right? Because if they're trying to control the narrative so that
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that they're ashamed of isn't being exposed, you have to know what it is because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to come out eventually. And it's like the hidden person in every argument, right?
Ooh.
That whatever it is that they're hiding, it's there all the time. They're afraid of being exposed for whatever it is, and they're probably ashamed of it. Um, but they don't know how to overcome it or work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that something that we're looking for when we're in a difficult relationship with somebody who's controlling or manipulative or abusive in some other way? We're always trying to figure out what it is that is holding them back from truly being who we think they're capable of being.
So, I'm going to challenge that. Do I have to figure it out?
No, you can leave.
Yeah, I think they have to
You can leave. You don't have to try to figure it out. You can.
eject.
Bye. It's probably the safer thing to do because
Mhm.
you can spend your whole life trying to figure out what it is that they're hiding from you. But if they
Mhm.
want to hide it, they're going to hide it.
Mhm. Mhm. I think control can almost become an addiction.
Yeah,
I promise you. I definitely
for
think that
sure.
that is a fact. And what's very interesting is when we have people who are controlling and narcissistic in leadership positions because they're always.
Hmm. That power and control dynamic. They're always trying to control the narrative. They're always trying to make sure the chips fall where they want them to.
Mhm.
You can set things up so that it works out in your favor, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
If you're really good at what you do and you have enough power, it's hard.
Exactly.
It's hard to dethrone somebody in a position like that. And
Yeah,
get
I don't
them
think you,
off their game.
right. I don't know that you can.
Hi,
The more
Maddie.
power that they have,
It's hard,
mhm,
especially
mhm,
if you're a little person and they're a big person and you're going up against them. The only way you can actually make that work is if you have uh, something on your back helping you out from the other side.
mhm. Or you can have a mob. You can have a mob of people.
Well, you got to be careful about the mob. You do not want to incite a riot, right? America is absolutely the mob. If you don't keep it under control, it could get out of control quick, right? Wasn't that the thing with ancient Rome? It was the mob.
That's a good one. Oh, great historical reference.
Hmm.
Great historical reference. Okay, let's walk down the path of another personality. Oh, wait. I want to talk about David and Saul. Do
Okay.
you think that Saul was controlling?
I don't, what do you think, Kayla?
Um, he was controlling,
Okay.
but what he ultimately saw was his own defeat in his lack of ability to reach the moment, but David's ability to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
when we look at how David, beat Goliath, and his praises were sung in the streets,
Mm-hmm.
you have Saul who rose to power, but never felt that he was truly worthy of being there or able, especially when he was announced um, to be king, he hid.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't remember where in scripture that is, but I remember reading, why was Saul hiding
Mm-hmm.
when he was being announced? So as I, yeah, is he was threatened by David's anointing.
Hmm.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
How do you keep people from being threatened by your light? Because David had a light. It was David's light, okay? He couldn't get rid of it because it was God given.
Mm-mm.
So how do you help people not be threatened by your light?
I don't know. I don't know. And you also have to be careful about the moths your light attracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are a light, everyone can see you and you just don't bring the nicest thing to you, right? I like to joke that my milkshake brings all the trolls to the yard,
Uh-uh.
but right, your light will bring a lot of things, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. Some people are going to try to control you and manipulate you whenever they can.
Right.
You have to keep control over that. You have to be careful um,
Okay.
who you share your energy with.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to be said for the energy exchange. And there are some people who try to create an opportunity to suck the life out of you like a vampire. Their
Mm-hmm.
energy vampires are very real, right? And that is part of that control dynamic, right? They are trying to keep you sucked in, feeding them whatever it is that they want
Okay.
so that they can control you and get you to do what they want you to do, which, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't.
So sometimes people are not trying to control you per se. They might be trying to control your energy. And I just kind of think that's two different things because they
Mhm.
want it. They want to capture it and have it released when they're ready.
Right, right. And they want to maybe control the way you share your energy, right?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
want to control the way you behave. They want to control others through you.
There
When
you go.
you're a master manipulator, you can find the weak link in the chain or the right person. You can find the right person to share your message so
Mhm.
that they manipulate people for you. You have to be careful.
I like that. That's very good. I see you smiling, Kayla. What's your thought on that?
Um, you know, I think that when we deal with those dynamics of being around a manipulator is ultimately going to look at how can you serve their purpose,
Mm-hmm.
because there's
Mm-hmm.
something in you that they don't have. Um, so yeah, you can be used in multiple ways. Depends on how they need you in that moment.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. It's how they need you in that moment because they can change their game up at any time based on how they need you in the moment.
That's right on point. Kayla and I were talking, and as we were chatting, we discovered this. I wrote it down. Um, Sometimes people can't win because they are so busy spending their time trying to make you lose.
That's beautiful. Say it again.
Sometimes people can't win because they're so busy spending their time trying to make you lose.
That is
That's
so true.
mm-hmm.
I have seen that one play out in real time. I have seen somebody not win something they wanted because they were just trying to make someone else lose. And it bites you. It really does. The universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, spirit, it knows what's in all of our hearts. And I believe it's the grand puppet master pushing us in different directions to do whatever it wants us to do, what it needs us to do, so that all of this comes together in our highest and best good. I've seen it so many times from so many different angles. Impossible things come together uh, because somebody has true darkness in their heart and the universe finds a way to make sure they lose. They're trying to burn somebody who is a light, who is, preordained or destined to do something spectacular. And then someone goes against them to try to destroy them and bring them down and brings themselves down instead.
So, Kayla, would you say that Saul was a dark spirit?
Um, I think that he had a purpose for the his time, and I
Mm-hmm.
think if it were not for what he did, David would have never been prepared to be king, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
goes to the my favorite scripture that I shared, which shows how we have to go through dark seasons to receive the portion that was already prepared for us. So I think it's kind of like, was Judas a dark spirit? Yes,
I
but
was so thinking of that already. You're
but
in my head. Go ahead.
it, it,
That
it,
was
it
my next question.
it's hard to talk about those things when you know that God is already using them for a good reason, even
Mm-hmm.
if it seems dark in that season. So yeah, that's my response. Is a tricky one.
So I think someone can be a dark spirit, but at the same time, I'm going to go back to a scripture that I love. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. So a dark spirit can arrive and it can come on the scene and it can do its dirt, but God will make it work out to where it serves his purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how God is. I mean, let's go back to the book of Job, right? Oh my God, did Job get
What? My,
it?
there's a joke about that.
Okay, let me hear it.
Okay. I'm not going to get it quite right, but poor Job, right? Everything that he went through. I mean, the 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 list of things that he went through is horrific. And through
Hmm.
all of that, he never lost his wife. How horrible do you think she was?
Wait a
I
minute.
don't think she was a comfort to him.
She wasn't.
No.
She told
How,
him,
how horrible. How all the things he went through. How horrible must that woman have been to him?
Well, I think she was quite horrible, but this is a scholarly Bible question. Why couldn't she be killed? Why wasn't
She
she
was
killed?
there to punish him. She was there to torture him. She was there to make his life miserable. She was being used for a purpose too.
Do you think that's the reason, Kayla?
I'm not certain and I can't remember this accurately, so I don't want to misspeak on it. But wasn't there a part where she said, why don't you just go ahead and die already? Um, you know, so um I really am not certain of her purpose in it, you know, but yeah, yeah.
So I have been taught, or many scholars believe, it's an old marriage thing. God said that the enemy could not kill Job. This is how serious marriage is. You're joined into one. That literally makes her part of Job, so she could not be killed. Now, that is the answer that I have read from scholars. I don't know. I think marriage is just that serious. I think, have you ever heard of the phrase soul tie?
Very much so.
Okay. When you are married to someone, I think that you have a soul tie. Um,
Mhm.
and can you have a soul tie with someone that you're not married to? Absolutely. But I think marriage ties you together in that way when you give yourself to them.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I can't say I believe in reincarnation in the way that some people believe in it, but there are examples in the Bible that cause me to believe that there are extensions of our life. Um, I think it is it, there's a person in the Bible I'm thinking of, and I think it's Malachi. I, I cannot say for sure. Or is it, oh God, there's a man in the Bible who has no birth date and he has no birth end. You know how they record the
In the
dates?
book of Numbers? Hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't have one. And they refer to him as if he is the first coming of Jesus.
Oh, are you referring to that is when oh, Sarah was her, I'm sorry, I Abraham was
Okay.
coming back
I sure
and
am. Yeah.
when tithing was kind of,
Yeah.
and he gave
What
10%.
what book is that? I can't remember the book.
Um
Or
I,
the person's name. It begins with an M. I just can't remember the name specifically to call it forth, you know. So I need that. We'll figure it out later. Um, so there's that one, and then there is a place in the Bible. You would think I would know this off the top of my head, but Jesus says he's talking to someone, and they ask him about somebody from the past, and Jesus speaks, this is that person. I can't I can't right now remember the exact person, but I know that situation exists in the Bible. So in that way, under those guidelines, I believe in reincarnation. Do I believe that everybody is just 100% reincarnated and all of these kinds of things, like in a non-biblical way? I cannot say that to be so. Now, in a secular portion, um, have you guys heard of that little boy who he's pretty popular. And he's really young. He was really, really young when he was telling his story, and he kept claiming that he was a black woman who got killed um, when he fell out of the window. And he talked all about the music that he liked, and talked very clearly about his previous life, and he wanted to go back to where he lived. And he was less than 6 years old. And the reason why I remember that is because by the time he was 6 years old, those memories were gone. There's but there's a lot of documentation. Are you familiar with any of this?
I've heard some stories. There might be a couple of different kids, so I'm not sure if it's the same child that you've heard of. I do believe in reincarnation. I actually have a theory in regards to how to calculate your previous and past lives. I believe in the idea of a soul tie, of being somebody that you have known for hundreds of years, that you have had another life with. And when you meet them in this life, the connection, the intensity is so that words just can't describe it. The idea that you can see somebody and instantly have missed them for longer than you can explain. I have met people that I have immediate friendships with. It's like have known each other. We've known each other before. It's something that I have. You heard of the Druze people? Druze.
No.
Have you
What is
heard
that?
of the Shroud of Turin?
No.
So there is a cloth. It is a much disputed cloth that was supposedly used to wrap Jesus's body.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it has been coveted for centuries. And just recently, within the last couple of years, scientists were authorized to investigate this cloth, and they were able to pull blood from it and do DNA samples. And in 2020, they identified a small portion of people, a very small religious group that are Christians that live in Turkey, and they're surrounded by Muslims, and they're basically provided sanctuary where they are the only Christian people in this Muslim nation, and they are very isolated and keep to themselves. Their religious documents predate the Bible. They have some very specific beliefs, and you aren't even allowed to find out what your full religious beliefs, their full religious beliefs are, until you're 30, where uh,
What?
you take a full commitment to your religion, and then you get the full piece of information. And so last year in 2020, these scientists announced that they had identified this small group of people from this mystical cloth, right? This could be Jesus's burial shroud. This special group of Christians exist in Turkey, and they're called the Druze, Druze. They believe in reincarnation. The one thing that they wanted to share with the world was that they did believe in reincarnation, that there was no heaven or hell, and that our souls recycle and we come back again over and over again. And the rest of their religious beliefs are kept very tight. They marry within their community. It is one of the problems that they are facing, is that their younger generation is not willing to buy into the secrecy any longer. And they're having a problem with people making a commitment to their religion and learning the rest of their truths. And this is one of the most fascinating things that for me that happened in 2020, because I am fascinated with the idea that we can connect the dots if we just do enough research and know where to look.
I am fascinated by so much in that story, but I'm not going to speak because look at Kayla's face.
She's just like, what do you mean, shrouds, DNA? Who is this woman that you brought, Coach Love?
What did you take in from that? What's your thoughts, Kayla?
I mean, really, it's just I never heard of that, so I was just learning and listening. Um, yeah, so that's what I took in, just trying to learn. That's why my I'm sorry.
Like
That's why my
that's
So
it was a
we
mouthful for me to learn last year too, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Yeah, let's get more of this. What's going on? How do
well,
we
when you
find out
said
their
they
secret
marry their cousins,
information?"
that's a little bit of a
Well,
much.
I'm sure they have a very I'm sure they have a process to make sure they're not marrying their siblings, right? But it is a very tight community.
I mean, but the whole marry your cousins part,
Yeah, yeah.
that is, I'm having,
No,
I'm
it's not
having
working
a
for me.
problem.
Like I've lived all over the country. There's no way I could do it. I couldn't look at everybody looking the same. It would make me uncomfortable, but
And did they say? So you say small. About how many people
I don't
are
have
in this
numbers.
community?
I don't
No
have numbers,
number.
but we could look it up.
And so they're in Turkey, and they're having. Why do you think they're having such a problem with their young people buying into the secrecy?
The internet.
Oh, so you think it's the internet?
I think it was easy to keep traditions going for generations eh, without question until everything became so connected. And now people want to talk about it. We don't want to have the secrecy. We want to share our information, right? It is this the last 20 years is a completely different event. I mean, think of how different it was when we were teenagers, you
Yes.
know, compared to what it's like today. You know, we I can't have a conversation with my teenagers and convince them that they're not going to listen to some music just because somebody told them they're not going to. It's just that they did that stuff to us. We're not doing that stuff to them. That's just not the way it's going to work. It is the same thing. People ask better questions. They're more informed. They don't understand why they have to marry their cousin. They would like to marry this other person. Can't we just tell this other person over here whatever this reincarnation story is? And can I date this guy? Right? I think it is a completely different situation these days. And I think the world is ready for more change.
I do not think the world is ready for change. I think the world is starving for the past. I think most people in the world want to go. As a matter of fact, I think if I said, "Would you go back to 2019?" Everybody would happily go back to 2019.
I wouldn't go back to 2019. I'd go back to 1993, but I wouldn't go back to 2019. No, because it's just inevitable. I think that what we've been doing hasn't been working. I think
Mm-hmm.
if it was working, it wouldn't have collapsed the way it did. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we're smart enough to figure all of this out if we just share the information, take the best pieces and parts, and connect all the dots. I think that there's no reason for us to keep fighting with each other. There's no reason for there to be famine, right? We have the ability to grow enough food to feed everybody on the planet. We
Mm-hmm.
have more empty houses in this country than we have homeless people. There's absolutely no reason why we can't figure this all out for everyone's highest and best good. That's what God would want from us.
Mm-hmm.
Take
So,
care of everybody.
do you think that America should be a Christian nation or not?
I don't think America is a Christian nation. I think America was founded under the idea that we should have somewhere where we are free from religion. It is
Mm-hmm.
not just the freedom of religion, it is freedom from religion because
Mm-hmm.
one group's idea is stronger than the other and it just creates more fighting and just more war. I love the idea that we could be a Christian nation, but we can't even agree on what it means to be a Christian, right? We're challenged to take care of the poor and the weak and the hungry and the disabled, but in our country, the priority often lays on money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How much is that going to cost? What are they producing? Is it worth it for me to fix their water? Nah, who cares?
Mm-hmm. You want to know what? When you brought up water, and instantly my mind went to Flint,
Yep.
Michigan.
Yep. One of the
Instantly.
greatest places in our country produced billions of dollars worth of revenue for our economy, pushed our nation forward, driving our nation. The people who lived there built our cars and vehicles for decades until
Mhm.
the powers that be found a cheaper way to get them built somewhere else by people who don't complain as much, because that's all
Mhm.
we Americans do is complain. And here, what are we going to do for that place? What are we going to do to take care of those people? They're ours. It's our place. They're our people. We should care about them, but we don't take care of our people. The greatest asset we have in our country is human capital, people.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
we keep them sick. We feed them bad food. We poison their water. We poison the air, and then we get mad at them when they complain because they want something better.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
controlling. It's incredibly controlling. It's incredibly
Ah,
manipulative. It's part of the abuse cycle. It's hard to break.
okay. Um, that's pretty good. You brought it back
Yeah,
to
you like the
me.
way I did
I
that?
did.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like that a lot. Kayla, to a person who's going to live about maybe 40, 45 years longer than me, what do you think about the state of everything that's going on right now? And what kind of expectations do you have?
Well, first of all, I wanted to add to that point of manipulation.
Okay.
Manipulation is also used to sustain power.
Mhm.
So, um, as we talk about what's going on and who does it benefit, who does it not, we have to, there's a system that has to manipulate, that has to abuse to sustain the people who are the manipulators. So, uh, I do think that the future for us is um, is bright if we want it to be. Really, a lot of these issues surrounding climate change and all of the fires, the weather catastrophes that we have been having, um,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID. Really, these things are actually our um, in our hand. We can control them and manage them and change them and fix them if we would like to. It's whether or not we are going to escape these abuse patterns and really stand up as a united democracy to address those issues because we have the technology, the resources, everything um, to, you know, stand to the issues that face us right now if we want to.
I can truly say, never ever have we known so much and been so,
Stupid.
yeah.
Stupid. Like, we
As
fight
in-
about some stupid stuff, and we don't even want to, respect the scientists that came before us, any of the groundwork that's already been laid. We want to just recreate the wheel and make it all brand new, like people haven't been talking about this stuff for a long time, researching it for a long time. It is hard to connect the dot, especially when it comes to identifying the power and control structure that keeps us down, that keeps us from truly uniting and coming together. That's what they don't want to see. The divide and conquer works very well. They do it for a lot of reasons because they are trying to keep their position of power. If they can keep all of us fighting with each other, they can continue to do whatever it is they want to do. We're too busy arguing over stupid stuff.
Do you think both? I mean, in America, we basically have a two-party system. Me personally, I am a true independent. I get on both sides' nerves.
Me too. Me too.
Yes, I just do because there are things that I could just really poke holes in both sides. Do you think we need to continue down um, the two-party system, or do you think we should keep the parties that we have?
I'd like to throw it all out in the wash and control alt delete it and start fresh with something new. Give
Hmm.
us three options. Maybe we can get through it with three, but what we got going on right now is just it's just so mired in controversy and hatred for so long. The idea that, you know, they're not on my team. I only care about my team. My team can do no wrong no matter what. Their side's wrong no matter what it is they do. You just spend all your time slinging mud at each other. And in the meantime, the millions of us who are doing most of the working and the tax paying and the dying in our communities are suffering, and we're fighting over stupid stuff too. If we could just find a way, that's been my belief, if we could just find a way where we could all come together, or the bulk of us could come together on at least one thing, we would see there's really not that much that divides us. I hear people complain all the time about the idea of Medicare for all.
Okay.
People just want something for free, right? This is a control technique, right? You want to shame people for wanting something for free. Meanwhile, we're all paying taxes out of every one of our paychecks right now, every pay period, for something that maybe we'll get to use in 30 years. And
Mhm.
I'm funny about my money. I want to use that service now. You're taking my money for healthcare, and I need healthcare right now. Make it a percentage of everyone's pay. Everyone plays, everyone pays. Take the caps off for the ultra wealthy. They're benefiting off of all of our labor in one way or another. And give people access to health care right now. We don't need a dozen different government healthcare programs. We need one. All the money goes in one bucket, only one hand gets to pull out of the bucket, and the same rules apply for everybody. The idea that you have a different fee for one government insurance company to provide a surgery than you do for a different government insurance company to provide the same surgery is simply fleecing the Americans who are putting the money into the bucket to pay for the surgery in the first place. Eh, we're ripping ourselves off, right? I've seen it a dozen times in television shows. You go to bid on an item and your friends bid you up and you end up paying more. And we're bidding ourselves up. We're not negotiating with ourselves. We're fighting ourselves, and we're throwing our own money away. We're smart enough to do this right. You combine all the government healthcare programs into one, but what we have is a bunch of powerful people who are trying to control the system so they can continue to pull the most out for themselves. And people are suffering in the process.
Boy, I like what you said, and I just have to say this because I've been dealing with the healthcare system a
Mhm.
whole lot, and it is a sick care system. It's not even a healthcare system, and we're going to pay. The sad part about it is we spend more money in the last few days of a person's life than we do their entire life. And the problem with that is most of the time when a person gets to the end of their life, they're on some kind of government paid health care plan. And if we had just taken that money and put it at the front of their life, they probably wouldn't have needed that desperate care at the end of their life, and we would have saved a ton of money
Yep. Yep.
to do it.
Exactly.
If we only wanted to make it about money. Now, if I wanted to make this about God, I think Jesus would give everybody health care.
I think Jesus would give everybody dental, vision, hearing. We'd have naturopaths. We'd have chiropractic care. There'd be massage therapy too. I want all the good stuff, right? Jesus would make sure we have all of the good stuff. There wouldn't be this, what do they do? Is it worth it for us to pay for this surgery?
Right. It's really crazy.
It's hurtful too, because we determine somebody's worth based on artificial methods, right?
And you want to know something? Because people have in their mind that they're just giving health care away. But this is a scenario that Jerry Foxhoven gave me, and it made so much sense. Are you trying to tell me that a person who works 30 years at a steel plant, so his whole life at a steel plant, that steel plant closes down, or maybe maybe something happens in his life where he can't do that job anymore. Okay. He loses that job. Are you trying to tell me that he does not deserve health care? because he doesn't work at the steel plant anymore.
Well,
He
and
worked,
when this pandemic hit and so many people lost their jobs and lost their health insurance too.
right.
How are we going to be in a pandemic and take away people's health care? The
That doesn't make
idea that
sense.
we're on the verge of a housing crisis, and housing prices have gone up so much when people are still out of work. We don't care about anything but money. And the problem is there won't ever be enough money. Right? But we're killing ourselves for what? For money?
And then my other big connection is crime. Not all crime, not all crime, but there is crime that is committed by people who are unwell. Okay. And so we put the people who are mentally unwell, we put them in jails in which we pay for. By the way, when they get in jail, they get health care.
Right. Right. We no longer have mental health facilities. There used to be treatment homes for the severely mentally ill. We used to take care of them up until the 80s. And maybe we didn't take great care of them because there's a lot of stories that have come out about the psychiatric hospitals and the things that were taking place there. Right. We definitely have made a lot of mistakes in our country, but the idea that we're just putting somebody who's having a schizophrenic break uh, into a prison full of prisoners who are going to make it worse, that's not right either,
But
right?
I guess what I'm trying to point out is that we once they're in there, we give them health care, but we
Well,
won't
but
give
we
them.
don't, it's not like prison is a psychiatric hospital. They're in general population with guards who aren't
Okay, but
prepared to
this is
deal
what
with
I'm
their mental
saying.
health.
The person who worked 30 years and never committed a crime can't get health care,
Can't get
but
health
the
care.
dude that's in jail is
Getting it,
getting health care.
getting good
I'm
health
just
care.
saying there's something wrong with that picture.
You're right. You're right. You're right. There is. There is. And it's not right. Right?
It
Our
is.
citizens, not just the criminals, not just the extra wealthy, because they're super wealthy. We're the divide amongst the middle class and the upper middle class is too wide.
Mhm.
With the
The top
1%, it's
corporations got bigger last year. During the
mhm.
pandemic, they got bigger and more robust. They made money.
Right, right. Well, a lot of their competition disappeared,
Mhm.
so they
That's
picked up the rest of the market share.
Let's talk about this really fast. This will be our last subject because I do hear this line a lot. I hear people saying that the reason, you know, nobody wants to go back to work.
Nobody wants to go back to work for $7 an hour. That's for darn sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Work-life balance is a real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta be able to make enough to live.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that the conversation that came up for me in the last month with this nobody wants to work topic is that there are even really well-paying jobs that
Mm-hmm.
are struggling to fill the gap.
Uh-huh.
And it's something I'm worried about because we've had so many problems reporting the numbers of who's had COVID and who's died of COVID, what
Mm-hmm.
qualifies as a COVID death and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
We've had such a massive increase in um, heart related deaths, kidney related deaths, strokes, um, suicides have gone up exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible more people have died than we realize. And
Mm-hmm.
this isn't just people are lazy and don't want to go to work problem.
Yeah, they're dead.
Yeah, it is entirely possible we have a much bigger problem on our hands than we have realized. In addition to that, with the the long haul effects, they're calling them
Yeah.
from COVID, the long term effects, they're learning that the virus that causes this COVID is very similar to the Epstein-Barr virus, and it
Hmm.
reactivates. So the Epstein-Barr virus is the virus that causes mono, and they have believed for a couple of years that the way this virus lays in wait in your body is actually the source of fibromyalgia. So
Oh,
fibromyalgia has gotten a lot of attention over the last few years because it lasts so long. It has all these extra issues. It's not just the pain problem, it's the multiple chemical sensitivity issues. There's a lot in addition that goes along with that. And that if they can if they can prove that it comes from mono and it comes from the Epstein-Barr virus, and they fight the virus and it makes the symptoms get better. But what they're going to learn with COVID is that they still have to figure out how to fight this virus, because if it reactivates like the Epstein-Barr virus does, and it causes so many more problems and complications at such a higher level than just fibromyalgia, we really have no clue how we're going to deal with the long-term health implications that come from having survived COVID. The blood clots, people are losing limbs, the infertility issue that impacts men because this virus impacts testosterone production. This is an extinction level event, and we are killing ourselves off. And nobody seems to care because they just need you to get back to work so that you can get more money. And we're hurting ourselves.
wow. I was you said a whole lot there, but the I think the one of the reasons why the unemployment numbers are being messed with could be there when you suck well over 600,000 people out of the workforce. That kind of messes with your employment numbers.
It really does. And the jobs that they were working at may not be available for them to go back to. You know,
Well, no,
our
it's not that they're not available. You can't recruit them to be in a job. You can't. Why can't you find any employees? Because they're not here anymore.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think as we start to get into it and really dive into once we start to see the moratorium for the housing evictions come to an end too, um, I sure hope
Honestly,
they don't pull that nonsense during the middle of winter.
well, you know what? We're getting close to the middle of
Winter is
winter.
coming.
Yeah, winter. Oh,
Winter
winter.
is coming, and now is not the time for a housing crisis or a unemployment crisis. For whoever the adults are that are in charge, I hope they have enough common sense to think about the reality that, it's going to start getting real cold out there.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm not
Mhm.
sure there are any adults left in the room.
I don't know. I know.
Kayla, I don't know.
We're going to need this one to grow up and take care of us.
Kayla, can you run for president?
Not right now. It was
Right? We got at
it's
least
not allowed.
25 years to go.
Yeah, we got a while.
Oh my God. What's your parting words, Kayla?
Well, my parting words, just listening to everything Miss Sherman mentioned, um, I want to read two scriptures. The first one being Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked man rules, people groan. And that's not speaking to any particular ruler, but to an institution or to a system, and what we're all facing as we deal with greed in our government. And the next thing would just be a divided house uh, cannot stand. And that brings us to uh, the way that we have to gather and organize on the ground level, even if we're not in the political sphere necessarily, to advocate for ourselves. But if we let petty issues um, keep us divided from achieving the ultimate goal, we'll never get anything done.
Amazing.
I know
Amazing.
it's great. I love the way the kids are getting raised these days. I love
Mhm,
how smart she is. I'm looking
mhm.
forward to the future. We just got to survive so we can get to the point these ones are running it.
Right. Well, you know what? We thought 2020 was bad, and then 2021 came along. Get
Supposedly
Jiminy.
it's supposed to be bad through 22. We won't see anything better until 23.
We're gonna make it to 23.
We're
All
going to make
right.
it.
Oh my goodness. Sherman, did you have any last words to say, or did you kill it with your last
I killed
expression?
it with my last one. I killed it.
I think so. I think so. Well, family, thank you so much for watching. You guys have been amazing. I always appreciate you. Bye bye for now.
Bye.